Real Estate Uncensored, this is the place where you learn how to reach people online, build real influence, and attract ideal clients. And that's what we're talking about today. Our guest, Stacey Brown Randall, is here. She's the host of the Roadmap to Grow Your Business. She is a referral generation expert, and we're talking today specifically about how to generate referrals without asking, which I'm really actually interested to find out because I feel like I've been doing this or some version of it for the last 5 years, but I couldn't have necessarily put that name on it. And I think a lot of people that are working off of referrals feel a little icky in asking and attempting to train people on exactly who they want to be referred to. Yeah, I think that's a good. I mean, you know the feeling. You're sitting in 110-degree heat and you're in your place outside of San Francisco. You know exactly what I mean by icky. So before we bring Stacey in, we've got the evil bald ninja here. We'll bring him in a second. But first, my illustrious colleague, the junior grandmaster, firmly ensconced in the co-pilot seat where you so belong, Greg McDaniel. What's up today?
As Spicy Stacey would say, I'm only the junior.
That's
So
right.
there's only so much you can expect from me today, guys. It has been a technological disaster. I feel like a complete non-professional. Stacey, I apologize. Matt and Gene, I blame you two. But otherwise, besides that, I love everybody. Let's rock this out. I cannot wait to hear what she has to say because I'm actually thoroughly interested to kind of hear what you have to say, Stace, in regards to like how you. And I call you Stace because you know our background. We've gone back to college together. The long history between the two of us. I mean, it's just like it's like a sister to me, and I feel I can call you Stace. But it's going to be incredible.
For those listening, we just met Stacey 15 minutes ago. That's just
and Greg didn't go to college. Don't forget that.
Greg, that is also true. Exactly.
Let's not skip that little nugget, huh?
I did go to
And
college.
with that,
I
Gene,
just
welcome
didn't
to the show.
graduate. Okay, there's
There
a
we go.
big difference. I partied, just didn't do
At
studying.
least I had the good sense to not try. Like, forget about that. I went and worked like a man. All right. So let's. So Gene, we have officially welcomed you with your first remark of the day. So first of all, welcome to you. What's up?
Thank you so much. I want to say I was smelling something earlier, and I couldn't figure out. I couldn't place it, and he told me it's 100 degrees out where he is, and I now know what stinks.
That's right.
Dude, it's not a good thing, but we're not going to talk about this in front of a woman, okay? Guys, behave yourselves. Gosh, Stace, let's get to you. No.
Oh my God, you just made this whole interview boring when you told them to behave themselves.
Don't worry, we don't listen.
Yeah, that's true.
No, they don't.
All right, Stacey, officially welcome to Real Estate Uncensored. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So
You
unfortunately,
sound
we're
so
not.
thrilled.
Yeah,
You sound so
exactly.
thrilled. Thank you. This is going to be a blast. We appreciate you.
Oh my gosh. All right, so we couldn't broadcast live, so we don't have any of that to worry about. So we're just recording behind the scenes. Stacey, let's start with this. Before we dive into your background and kind of how you got to be where you're at today, coaching people on how to do this. This all came from somewhere. We'll jump into that. But just riddle me this. When you're coaching people on how to generate referrals, let's just start with a very simple question. What's the very first big misconception or myth or lie that we've all bought into that you kind of have to help people overcome in order to help them even start to generate referrals without asking?
So the main thing that I teach people is referrals without asking. And yet that is the biggest thing that we have to do a shift in the mindset on, is to overcome this whole asking piece. I mean, I have taught people my strategy and they're like, great. And then I do all that and then I can ask. I'm like, no, you can't ask at all. There's never any asking. And it really is like this hard concept for people to like overcome that gap in their mind. They're like, wait, so I really never have to sit, at the Starbucks and have that uncomfortable moment where I look at somebody and I'm like, oh, who are 10 people just like you who need to work with me? I'm like, no, nobody wants you doing that anyway. But it is funny how they love the idea of not asking. And then it's actually reconciling that in their minds to get to a place where they're like, oh, wait, I'm actually truly never going to ask. It is an interesting kind of like jump to watch them make to the place where they're like, oh, wait, I'm not asking. And then, of course, when they say,
really
okay, I'm not going to ask, that brings up all these other thoughts that they then, I've got to pay people, or I've got to be gimmicky and promotional, or I got to know so many people. I got to be hustling all the time. And it's never just one like layer of the onion that we peel open when we kind of get to the heart of referrals without asking. There's all these misconceptions, all these myths, all these lies that people believe. But the biggest one they start with is this whole, you truly actually don't have to ask, and you can generate referrals consistently.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
It's fascinating because I've been, all joking around aside, I've been doing this for nearly 21 years, and that's kind of one thing we've always been told to is like, hey, talk to your three people. Who can I help? Yada yada. So my question is, and I know you're going to get into this, is just how in the heck do you not ask and get referrals? I mean, how does that process? What does that look like? Because I'm legitimately confused, and that's not a joke. Matt, no jokes, and no cracks out of your mouth, okay? But
I'm keeping perfectly quiet. I enjoy when you admit your faults. That's all I'm saying.
But you didn't tell me I had to not make any cracks. Right?
No, you're fully open season. Open season.
Gosh,
you go right ahead.
Dang it.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
But seriously, you can.
All right, so let me back up and explain to you a little bit about where the asking actually came from. Because I think when you can understand why that advice was originally given decades and decades and decades ago, it helps you understand where I'm coming from and how I'm going to teach you to generate referrals without asking. So if we think about the typical sales strategy, right? So if we think about, okay, a sales strategy, it typically has two parts. That's what we're taught. There's prospecting and there's marketing. Right. And you can debate which activities fit under marketing and which activities fit under prospecting. But for the most part, you think about prospecting, you think about farming a neighborhood or cold calling, right? You think about going to networking events or the 7 million cups of coffee or joining a chamber of commerce or BNI, right? That's prospecting. Then you've got marketing, right? And marketing it could be your online strategy, your social media. It could be the PR, the earned media that you go after. Maybe it's sponsorships that you do. Maybe it's some advertising that you do on Facebook. So you have these tactics that you take or these activities that you do that are on the prospecting side and that are on the marketing side. And the argument that I make is that referrals don't fit in either. So if you think about prospecting, the end user of everything you do when it's prospecting is potentially your next buyer or seller, right? It's the client. It's you go to that networking event hoping to meet somebody who's like, I need to list my house in 6 months. Let's get together and have a conversation, right? Or you do your marketing and you're hoping that message lands on some buyer who's like, yes, I definitely want to work with him to buy my home or whatever that looks like. And so the end user of your message in marketing and prospecting is always the prospect. And the mentality is on prospecting short term, right? It's short term mentality. How quickly can I get to a prospect? Marketing, it's a little bit longer term, right? But we're still trying to figure out how we can get to that prospect. But when you understand what a referral is and how it actually happens and why it actually comes to be, what you realize is that it doesn't fit in prospecting and marketing at all. And your sales strategy isn't a two-legged stool. It's a three-legged stool. And you need to add the referral piece. So if I'm teaching you, though, referrals, right, and this has been going on for decades and decades and decades, if I'm teaching you referrals and I think about it from prospecting, well, if I'm thinking end users to the prospect, got to get you as quick to the prospect as possible, it's fast mentality, right? Short-term mentality, I'm going to think, well, how do I get you as fast as possible to the referral? And that is ask, right? Yep. Or offer some level of compensation. And on the marketing side, if I'm teaching you how to get referrals from a marketing mindset and from a marketing philosophy, then I'm teaching you to be more promotional and gimmicky, right? It's like sending out the bag of goldfish with the little tag on it that says, I'm fishing for your referrals, which I see a lot in the real estate market, right? It's in the real estate industry. And so when we take referrals and we've slammed them into prospecting or marketing, that's where that advice comes from. But when you pull referrals out of that and you look at it as the third leg, a different way to do it, then you're like, oh, wait, everything about it's different. The end user of prospecting and marketing is the prospect. The end user of your referral plan, of the referral activities you do, is actually the referral source. So it's never a sales conversation. The end user is someone you're trying to develop a relationship with who knows the prospects. And so everything you do and how you look at it and the language you use, right, and what you're attempting to do to deepen that relationship to get more referrals, everything looks different in that moment because you're like, oh, wait, I'm not prospecting, I'm not marketing, I'm in referral mode. And so I have to behave and act and think differently.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, I mean, I come at things from such a marketing mindset that I think before this conversation, if you would have asked me where referrals fit, I would have thought of them as under the heading of marketing. But I know exactly what you mean, right? Because like looking at it from a marketing perspective, you're still thinking about who you're talking to is trying to get maybe a longer time frame, but you're still trying to get to the end user. And yes, that mindset does lead to gimmicky things. It leads to almost like the mentality that the way to get referrals is to advertise that you want them. which is exactly what you're talking about, right? Like, hey, I just need to blast more marketing messages out that I want referrals. Well, that's just a different way of advertising. It's more advertisements. And I think what you're talking about is that third leg of the stool being relationship building, relationship development, and that out of good relationships with very strategic people, that then gets you the introductions to those the people that you actually want to talk to. So is that kind of the lens that you look at things through in terms of referrals? It's outside of sales and marketing. It's more of relationship building.
Yeah, so it's still sales. At the end of the day, it's still bringing clients to you, right? But you're absolutely right. It's not a part of marketing. It's not a part of prospecting. And I use the goldfish example because it's one that we can all like visualize in our minds, like, oh, a bag of goldfish with a sign that says I'm fishing for your referrals. But there's subtleties in it too, just like you said. It's putting it in your newsletter that you work by referrals, or you're never too busy for their referrals, right? Or you put in your email signature line, right? The greatest compliment you can give me is a referral. Like, that's still thinking about referrals from a marketing perspective. And what's missing there is you're not triggering it, not in the way that you think you are, and not in a way that's going to give you consistency and sustainability. We need to still trigger referrals. There's still work to be done. There's still things to do, but what you do and how you think through it and what you say just has to be completely different. And it gives you some space, right, to also be like, okay, I'm in prospecting and marketing mode over here, but when I'm over here, I'm actually just focused on the relationship. So it's a lot easier as well when I'm like, hey, I'm just focused on taking care of this person because they take care of my business. And it makes it easier to figure out, like, oh, of course that's different from prospecting and marketing.
Oh, totally. And Greg, this is something that you've talked about, that you've struggled with for years, and it's the reason why you haven't done as good a job as you wanted to do of taking care of your database and pulling deals out of that database, because you're just much more comfortable in the sales mentality, the cold calling, that like you're really good at building relationships quickly. So you tend to fall back on that, and then when you have a relationship with somebody that's in your database where you need to remember who their son's name is, and you need to remember what high school they went to, like different things like that, like you feel kind of out of place because you're just more comfortable in that prospecting mindset. So it's definitely a different thing.
Well, yeah, because for me, I mean, I was 21 years deep in the business. I mean, when I started in the business, there was no smartphones, social media. No. I mean, there was nothing. I mean, Facebook,
cars,
cars,
air conditioning.
Horse and buggy was
we
just
didn't have televisions. Yeah,
I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, Gene was just born. It was
exactly. Gene was just a little bald baby, new to the world.
Little bald baby,
complete with glasses and a beard. We assume. We haven't seen the baby pictures, but I assume.
But what I'm going to say in this here is the fact that, like, when I got into the business, that's the only way we could do it. Now, did we work on referrals? Yes. Do we get a lot of business from referrals? Yes. Is it something that I've been taught how to do? Not effectively. How do you make that, Stacey? How do you make that switch from? Because you can't go referral based right off the bat. You have to build a database. You have to build a referral network. So, and a lot of us probably already have it because our friends and family and coworkers and yada yada from past businesses and our life just existing on planet Earth. But I mean, where does that shift take place, and when do you encourage people to say, hey, you know what? I'm at this point in my life. I can now make a pivot towards just working my sphere and getting my past clients and everyone to refer me. What does that look like?
So it actually all comes down to what the data in your business tells you as to when you're really ready to make that shift. Now, here's the thing. I have lots of people who come to me and they're like, I'm 5 years in and I don't have any referral sources, right? Or I'm in my first year and I want to build a referral-based business. What does it look like? And is there a strategy and a system that you can follow to identify people and then cultivate them into referral sources? Of course. So you don't have to wait around for this to happen. But for most people that I work with that come in to my program or come to work with me and they are, they've been in business 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, I'm like, where you are with your referral generation is everything that your data in your business is going to tell me. And the number one thing you have to do to figure out how well you do right now at cultivating referrals is to actually look back at where your clients came from. And this is actually the first step in the whole process that I teach, is that you have to, we call it IDing the who. You have to identify who your referral sources are. And now there are different ways, depending on how you create and keep your database, there are different ways that you can do this. I find that when I deal with agents, they are much better. I mean, if they're a little bit more disciplined, they're much better at having this stuff in a database. I mean, I can sometimes talk to an attorney or an interior designer and they're like, let me get out my legal pad, right? And let me kind of figure out who my clients were and where they came from. But that's ultimately what you need to do. And you need to look at this as where did your clients come from? Did they come because they answered a postcard that you sent to their neighborhood? Did they come because they saw a sign in someone's yard and they called? Were they referred to you by someone? And referral is always from a human. You don't get referred by your BNI group. You don't get referred by, some group that you joined. There's a person in those groups that referred you. Or, did they just find you on a Google search, or had they just known you for 30 years and they would never think of using anybody else as their agent? So you have to figure out the source. It's sometimes referred to as a lead generation source or lead gen source, but the source of where those clients came from. And if you want to really know, then you need to look at all the prospects you've talked to too that didn't become clients and figure out where they came from. I tell folks, let's not go overboard. Let's go back 3 or 4 years, depending on how long you've been in the business. I would tell someone to go back 3 or 4 years, look at your list of clients and tell me where they came from. And then all those clients that were referred by someone over the last 3 or 4 years, that's actually your group of referral sources. And when lots of people do this activity, they're like, wow, I've got 25 referral sources. And I'm like, how many of them have you been ignoring? And they're like, it's not the most fun. Right. It's like, it's not the most fun thing to kind of go through. But then some look at their list and they're like, wow, I've been in business, 15 years and I've got 5 referral sources. That's it. That's all that I can actually say have actually referred me, whether it's a client, right, or it's a prospect who just didn't become a client. But we start with that list. Like everybody, when people first talk to me, they're always like, what do I do to get more referrals? And I'm like, the what is not the right question. It's the who. That's the right first question. It's who has referred you? I'm assuming you're referable, right? Of course, if you're not, then we can have a different conversation about your client experience, right? But if you're referable and you've received referrals, that is where we want to start to capitalize from those people who have referred you. And it's looking at who those people are. And once you know who's referred you, trust me, everything changes. You look at your business differently. You recognize the data, the gold that you just pulled out from that data. And I would tell you, and the argument that I would make, and I think I'm right a lot. You haven't picked that up quite yet with me. But I would make the argument that list of referral sources, that's the biggest asset your business has. Right? It is not your clients, even though we love all of our clients, right? But it's not your clients, it's not your software, it's not even the thing that makes you different in the industry. Your asset, the biggest asset your business will always have are the people who are like, oh, here, Matt, have another person to work with that you don't have to actually do any real hard work for. And so that's where it starts. So it starts with looking at who are your referral sources. That data reveals how healthy is your business now, right, in terms of your referral generation.
Yeah, one of the best things that somebody ever said to me, this is back when I was working on my old agency. So the CEO of that agency said, look, the first thing I think about in terms of reaching new clients is not how do I get to them. He says the first thing I ask is who holds the relationship with them. So who do they already look up to, trust, and respect, and how can I build a relationship with that person? And yeah, like Stacey, that was life-changing for me. Like that's been the inner foundation of my agency. Most of what we do comes from the combination of the fact that it's not just that like the podcast listening audience goes and signs up for my stuff. It's that it's the extended network of people that I built through things like podcasting and being a guest and all that stuff. It's the people, it's the relationships. And the more that I cultivate them, the more good things happen. When I neglect them, referrals dry up. Like it's extremely simple and predictable. And it's I think we it makes, because you're coming at it from a couple of different points of view, because we haven't really dived into your background a little bit, but you've been an agent, but you've also been in the consulting world, which is way more run on referrals. And I don't know exactly why there's such a difference, because you talk about the real estate and mortgage industry being overtrained on sales, which is true, to the point where we feel like we have to go out to the wider world of prospects, and then we skip every step in between, like the relationships with people who can refer us. But a consultant would never think like that. Like consultants think in terms of referrals, and I don't know why that's such a difference. But that is one thing that I will tell you is hard to overcome in real estate and mortgage and any of these kind of local service pros. So how do you get people to think a little bit differently in terms of like, hey, I know there's a whole neighborhoods and thousands and tens of thousands of people you'd like to reach. I get that. Like they're all out there. They're all nameless, faceless people. But why go there where you can go to the people that already have names and faces, they already like you and trust you, but you just need to keep in communication and relationship with them. How do you get people to start seeing that differently and understanding how to stay in touch with those people?
Those people have feelings, okay? They're not nameless and faceless, okay?
Okay.
They have feelings.
Okay.
Gosh, we've talked about
them,
this.
so I don't care about that.
I had to.
Well, everyone's important. Some in this scenario, not as much.
Yeah, clearly.
Are you referring to me? I take offense to that.
Never, Junior. Never.
Oh, damn. That's 4 times.
I'm actually going to track myself to see how many times I can make that reference.
We just made a new game out of it. If you're listening to this, you got to drink every time you say
exactly.
You bet. Well, then some of you guys need to get caught up.
Junior. Okay, there we go. Now we're all shit-faced. Let's continue with the show.
Oh, man.
No, I think that, when you think about it from that perspective, I think it's the human element that make people look at it and say, oh, there's all these neighborhoods out there. There's all these faceless, nameless, but people who have feelings that are out there that we could be marketing to, that we could be selling to. But when you ask them to pull it back in and to look at it in a little bit smaller vernaculus, there's a little bit of but there's a relationship there. And remember, if I'm sitting in this place and you're teaching me it, why don't you focus on the people who actually know you and actually maybe like you and trust you and have the potential to refer you? Remember, for most agents, they're sitting there and they're looking around at the advice that's given to them in the industry, and they're thinking, yeah, but I got to go ask them, right? I got to go be promotional and gimmicky and ask them. And so they pull back from it. They're like, I'm just going to let referrals naturally, organically, spontaneously happen, when and where they can, and just be grateful that they happened and focus on my prospecting strategy or my marketing strategy. And I think that's one of the gaps that people have to cross, is this whole concept of, when you're dealing with referrals, you are dealing with relationships. But what I want you to consider is, how do you protect the heck out of that relationship? How do you honor who they are, honor who you are, be authentic, don't take advantage of reciprocity, right? How do you honor that relationship and then take care of them to the point where they're impacted how they feel about you, so they want to help you? And then we just use some specific language so that they're thinking about us from a referral perspective. There's a little bit, I always tell folks, there's a method to the madness, right, in terms of why we have the steps that we have and what we do and what it looks like for folks. Because at the end of the day, the number one thing we have to do is protect the relationship with that referral source. Because we know they're not easy, right, to turn somebody into a referral source, and we know how quickly that we can lose that trust. And so if we go at it with any other tactic in mind other than protecting that friendship, protecting that relationship, whether it's personal or professional, we're going to potentially damage it. And I think that's what we have to pay attention to. And that's why people are like, I'm just going to go hop over here to all the nameless, faceless people and see what I can drum up, because I don't have relationships with them yet, and so I don't have to worry about doing something to jeopardize it.
So you said you have to, what's the language? What is the language when you speak? Say that phrase. What is the language you're referring to for speaking to past clients, friends, families, anybody else to kind of get those referrals?
Yeah, so we call it referral seeds, right? I mean, you can really call it whatever you want, but in our program, in our world, we refer to it as referral seeds, and it's just the planting of those referral seeds that get people remembering, right, and thinking about you, kind of moving in that subconscious level of always thinking about you from that referral perspective without really actively always thinking about you that way, because it's just the language that you use. So let me use a really easy example so that this will make sense. So think about, and so there are so many places to plant referral seeds, right? I mean, there are places to plant referral seeds when you're doing your outreach to your referral sources, when you are writing a thank you card. I mean, there's just so many times that you can plant referral seeds in the buyer's journey, right? When they're a new client, so many times to plant seeds. But let me give you the easiest one that everybody can use tomorrow. Whether you've received a referral, whether you have a referral source or not, here's the easiest referral seed to plant. And this will make sense as to kind of what the concept looks like. When you are, I would say at a networking event, but we're not doing those right now. But when you are meeting with somebody, or you're over Zoom, or you're face-to-face, or whatever you're doing with your mask on or not, right? Whatever it looks like for you. For most of us right now, it's virtual. We're having conversations. We're doing this stuff over Zoom. The number one question that you're going to be asked is, hey, how's it going? How's business? How are you doing? right? We ask this question whether it's COVID times or not. It's kind of irrelevant, right? This is the number one question asked when we're having a conversation with someone. It's, how's business? And 9 times out of 10, the typical response you will hear or that you will give is, it's great, or it's busy, or it's crazy, or I wish my kids would go back to school, right? Like it's all these like different responses that are throwaway responses. There's nothing technically wrong with them. They're just not the best response to give. And so one of the things I teach my students is, it's like when you're in a conversation with someone and they ask you, how's business, don't miss an opportunity to plant a referral seed. If it's with an actual referral source of yours, it'll matter. But it could also be the potential for you to plant a referral seed with someone who could become a referral source down the road. So when they say, how's business, I want you to be like, oh my gosh, thanks so much for asking, right? I mean, it's going great. I actually was just looking back over my third quarter results, and I was amazed, right, that I brought in 17 new clients by referral. Right, so I'm just picking a number of a loan officer who just submitted their third quarter report a little early because he got me, but like he's like, I just got 17 referrals. Like, so it's the idea of talking about business from that perspective. Now, this is one scenario, a way to plant one type of referral seed. This is not all the ways to do it, right? But it's just being able to say, how's business? Oh my gosh, it's great. I just brought in 17 referrals in the last quarter. Or I looked back over the first half of 2020, and even with everything going on, 75% of all my clients came through referral. And then you ask the question, don't you think getting clients by referral is like the best way? And you see if you can engage in a referral conversation. Just by using a very direct approach, there's indirect and direct ways, but just by using a very direct approach about mentioning your business from a referral perspective, all in answering the question, how's business? So it's a legitimate response. You're not forcing it in there, right? You're just sharing, hey, business is great. This is how great it is, right? And you can't lie about this stuff. These numbers actually need to be real to you. You can't use my numbers or somebody else's numbers. And I always feel the need to say that to people, right?
That's hilarious and a depressing commentary on our.
I know. It's so sorry, so sad. But and then it's like having the same. You can have a conversation with someone from a referral perspective, and just see where it goes. And you're not going to have a conversation about, well, who do you know who could refer me? Like sometimes it's just, last quarter I brought in like 50 new clients by referral. It's pretty amazing. I mean, business is doing great. How's it going for you? Like it's not even always an ongoing conversation you're going to start. It's just planting that simple seed. And we use this one a lot. It's the how's business response, right? Like it's a specific seed we plant. Your numbers, what you say looks a little bit different based on your business. But the reality of it is, it's to see if it can like just take root. Like, can we just get it in the ground to where you think about referrals? And if I can engage you in conversation about referrals, well, then I can talk about, like, we can start having a business conversation, right? And then that will look entirely different. And what you're going to remember when you walk away from that conversation, right, is it, in particular, if I have impressive referral numbers, that's what you're going to remember. And it just plants the seed. Now, you can plant a seed and walk away from it, and we all know what happens if you don't water it and take care of it. It's never going to actually like sprout and then bloom. And that's not to say every time you plant the seed is going to go anywhere. Sometimes you're going to just throw it on concrete, right? And so it just happens. But it is a specific way for people to understand when I'm planting referral seeds and what that looks like. This is one that everyone can take. The next conversation you have with someone, they're like, how's business? I want you to think, oh, what did Stacey say? Oh, that's right. She said that I should say it's great, and then give some examples about how my referral generation is going, and be quiet and see where the conversation goes from there. It's simple things like that that we do that totally shifts the dynamic of how people think and see you. Now, of course, if I'm dealing with a referral source, right, there's lots of different ways for me to plant referral seeds, but ultimately what it comes down to is them always knowing how much I appreciate them, and then sprinkling in the language that makes it matter most.
So a couple of things on this that popped in my mind. And Gene, you're creepy when you don't talk, and it drives me up the wall, especially since you're the evil bald ninja. With what Stace is talking about here in regards to, kind of cultivating that relationship, what kind of comes to your mind in regards to marketing? Not sales tactics, but just consistently staying in front of people. Because I recently had a conversation with the show's dear good friend Monica, Coach Monica, and she turned me onto her app called Ghost Poster, and I've been using it, and it's been absolutely phenomenal in regards to letting people know what I'm doing in my business. In regards to, I'm still a real estate agent. I don't just do podcasts. I still sell houses, yada yada. I get that question asked a lot, which is really depressing, because people are like,
I mean, you do them often enough. It might as well be your full-time job. So that's a valid question.
I know, but my thing is for Gene, like, how could you take a content from a human, like what Stacey's talking about, and let people know just by having a conversation with them, maybe digitally or virtually or whatever else, that you are still a real estate agent, or you are still an insurance adjuster, or you are still a lender, fill in the blank. What would that look like?
Yeah, so actually it's interesting because I think I can couple two things together here. Because when she's talking about going back, like when Stacey was talking about going back and pulling out your best referral sources, the guy, and like you said, Matt, you're probably not taking care of them, right? You look back and you go, these 25 people have been raving fans of mine, and I've never thanked them, right? So my question was to Stacey was going to be, and I still think it will be a question after I'm done this thought, is that, like, how would you generate that conversation? What would you say when you pick up the phone? Matt, we haven't talked in 8 months, but I'd like to know if you'd still refer people to me. Like, obviously that's going to fall on its face, right? But from my perspective, what I'm finding in the marketing arena is that people aren't asking their referrals or their successful clients for reviews enough. So, killing two birds with one stone, I think the phone call becomes, hey, Greg, it's Gene. I know we haven't talked in a little while, but I'm going through my old database, and I remember the last transaction we had was a really good one. You know that referrals are the lifeblood of my business, and reviews are so huge right now on Google and Zillow. But any chance, I'll take you out for a cup of coffee or a beer. Any chance you would, if I send you a link, you jump on and give me a decent review, right? And
yes.
That kind of, maybe you don't just jump into that like that. There's probably some more like, how are Matt's kids doing, the 3 insulin-sucking babies.
Babies.
I would start with that. I'd lead in with that, right? And Stacey's laughing. She doesn't know what that is. I have nothing to do with that. That's not me. But maybe I think that's a good segue into, because then here's the other thing too. Oh, you know what? It's been a long time, Greg. I didn't even realize you were still doing real estate. Oh yeah, dude, I never stopped. I've been a terrible friend, and I just haven't called and reached out to you to see how you were doing. That's why I'm doing it now. And then kind of couple that with the review. So I'm wondering what Stacey's thought is on, because I know people are listening. They're going, all right, as I'm listening to this, I just remembered 10 people that used to help me kill it. I'd love to talk to them again, but it's going to be an awkward call because I haven't talked to them in 6 months. How do you start that?
Okay, so a couple of things here. That's a great question. So the first thing I would say is, I teach don't ask for referrals. I don't teach don't ask for reviews. Absolutely ask for feedback, ask for testimonials, ask for reviews, whatever it is that your business has, right? When somebody has told you or they have had great results or they've indicated a good working relationship with you, you should absolutely ask for those. I actually have a podcast episode, and it's titled, I don't know the number, but it's titled The 5 Times You Can Ask, Just Never for Referrals. Because people take my advice about don't ask for referrals and they apply it to like everything in business. They're like, oh, so I shouldn't be asking for the business? I'm like, nope, you need to know how to close. Like, oh, so I shouldn't ask for testimonials. Nope, didn't say that. You should be asking for testimonials. So I do think it's a great opportunity for you to start a conversation and to have a reason for that conversation. I think that for most people, to pick up the phone and to have a conversation, they're like, what do I say? Like, how do I start? What's my reason? This will be awkward. Well, not if you're calling and saying, hey, Papa, so sorry. I'm a terrible person. I'm a terrible friend, right? I've got these 3 kids. It's 3 too many. And there's just, it's a lot going on. I'm homeschooling and, all the stuff is happening in my life. Now my husband's at home working. Right. Whatever your scenario is. And just own it, and then make the reason for your call is to ask for that review and be like, and give them an out. Hey, if you don't have time, totally get it. I just thought I would ask you if you wouldn't mind giving me a review. But in terms of that perspective, what I teach it from a referral perspective, right, the number one thing you actually need to do, and this is actually something we teach, it's like very first action anyone in my Growth by Referrals program takes, which is what we call the kickoff card. And once you've identified who your referral sources are, and you've identified, okay, who are they? We've gone back a couple of years. Who are they? Who's active? Who's inactive? And we have some parameters for what active and inactive look like. And then we ask ourselves the really hard question. We're like, who did we properly thank when they refer us? Whether it was a year ago, 2 years ago, 6 months ago, 12 days ago. Like, who did we actually properly thank? And properly means one thing and one thing only. Can you guys guess what that is?
Politely. Often.
With a
words.
logo, with a knife with our logo on it. I assume that's what it means to be properly thanked.
No, a handwritten thank you note. Come on, guys.
Oh, okay. Oh, can they be fake
Gosh.
handwritten like mine are?
No, nope,
Oh,
they cannot.
my God.
Cheater.
Come on.
No. Here's the thing. I understand you want to cheat and go the easy route on some things, but when it comes to taking the time to write a note to someone who just dropped a client into your lap, we're all going to get off our lazy butts and we're going to handwrite an actual card. Right. And so the reality is in my program, what we teach folks is that you have two types of kickoff cards to send. It's it's the typical one, we call it the jumpstart card. It's the typical one that's just kind of like, I know I've thanked you, right? And I'm just thanking you again. And then the other card is the elephant in the room card, which is the, hey, and the language is a little bit like, I don't take referrals for granted, but I'm pretty sure I took it for granted when you referred me and I didn't thank you. And that's not actually how I want to run my business, right? And so we own it stuff because we're talking about a real relationship with this person and the ability to get more referrals from them. You can't act like the elephant isn't in the room. It's the biggest thing in the room. And trust me, I hear from people all the time. Why can't they thank me when I refer them? I'm like, well, obviously they need my course, right? But they're like, why can't they thank me every time I send them a referral? And I'm like, even though we were all taught, for the most part, the same way by our mamas that, hey, when someone gives you a gift, right, which a referral is, you sit down and you write a thank you note, and you take the 32 seconds it takes to write that thank you note. And for those of you who have terrible handwriting, you take 62 seconds to write the thank you note and write slower, but you still write the note. And don't do cursive if you have bad handwriting, print. Don't worry, everybody can read your print. But the reality of it is that you've got to own the elephant in the room, and you've got to make sure you're having that acknowledgement of, hey, I don't know if I thanked you for the referrals in the past, but I want you to know that I don't ever take this for granted. So thank you so much for those. And that's the language you want to use when you're looking at that list thinking, yeah, no, I have not done a great job taking care of these people, and I've got to start somewhere. And so we use the kickoff card in my program as the kind of launch pad to put everyone on the same level playing field. So that way, when we continue to take care of them over the course of the year, everything makes sense. It's not this random thing that shows up and it's like, why am I getting this from Matt, right? Why am I getting this, right? It makes sense because we've kind of initially leveled the playing field. We've kind of said it like, hey, I'm going to take care of you, right? Without saying that. And that's the cool part is that everything you say has to feel normal. It has to sound normal. It has to feel normal. You have to be okay writing it and okay saying it. But that's actually what we look at when we're thinking about reaching out to people, and that we look at our list and we're like, I have not talked to this person in 9 months. I'm pretty sure I maybe sent a text that said thanks for the referral. Not sure I did that. But if you texted, called, or emailed, you still have to send a handwritten thank you note. But the good news is that actually allows it to count as one of our outreach touch points we're going to do within a year. Because what most people don't know and don't understand is that referrals, it isn't like prospecting and marketing. I'm not worrying about it every day. I'm not worrying about it every week. I'm not even worrying about it every month. I'm somewhere between 4 and 8 touch points a year is ultimately what I'm after. And what you do dictates, are you up in the 8 range or in the 4 range? And most people fall in 6 to 8 regardless. But it all starts with that. Let's acknowledge what has been, and let's write that in a card and kind of put everyone on the same level playing field and move forward to take care of those relationships. So to your point, I think that, Jean, it's a great thing to go out and ask those testimonials and those reviews. And if that weaves you into a conversation about how much you appreciate the referrals they gave you, here's a tip, though. Anytime you're talking to somebody about a referral, whether in a handwritten note or you're talking to them verbally or even over text, you've got it because you did your homework and you know who your referral sources are. You also then know who they refer to you. So use the name of the prospect or the client that they refer to you. One of the other referral seeds that we talk about planting is the thank by name. And that is specifically using the prospect's or the client's name in your communication with them. Hey, I know 6 months ago you referred me so-and-so. I have no idea if I did what I was supposed to, right? And did I actually properly thank you? So it's like using their name too reminds them that, oh, that's right. It's not just I kind of think I referred you. It's like, oh, I specifically referred you that person. That's right. I remember that. And that's kind of ultimately what we're looking for. So it's kind of a 2-part, maybe that was a 3-part answer to your question.
So let me ask you a question. Can you do this in reverse? And I'm asking this very specifically because today I'm going out on a listing appointment on a probably $3.5 million property. And what I did is I went and I got them a book on Amazon about the city that they're moving to that they're super pumped on. So I'm going to, based upon what you're telling me, Stacey, is I'm going to go in here and I'm going to write a little, hey, thank you so much for your time today. We truly look forward to working with you. Thank you so much for your time, blah, blah, blah. Can you do it in reverse? Can you do it forward facing and then go back and reference it in the past? So not in the past, in the future, and say, hey, look, here's Stacey, this is for you and your husband. Thank you so much for your time, yada, yada. If we work together or not, you'll say we do. Then I go back and I'm like, hey, what'd you think about the book? Did you like the book? Was it something educational for you and your husband and your kids and yada, yada? I mean, can you play it that direction? Because can you double tap it, one on the front, one on the end? I mean, how does that look?
Yeah, absolutely. So this falls outside of referrals and falls within your client experience. So you definitely can use anything like that. That's more of, so I look at your client experience that it has two parts. It has the work touch points that you do, right? So the work touch points are the things like getting the listing agreement signed, going out on the presentation, right? And handling the negotiations, getting the inspector over to the house, right? Making sure the HUD statement is correct. Those are all the things you're going to do as an agent that are work touch points related. But what most people miss are then the relationship touch points that come along with that, which is the book that you give them, right? When you're trying to get their business and they're in the buyer's journey deciding if they're going to use you. And then if they decide to use you, it's the thank you card that you mail after they say yes to working with you. And then it's the little things that you do throughout the way that, in addition to your communication setting, all those and expectation setting and communication, in addition to those things, right, that creates your client experience. And so if you have something in there that you could reference, it always allows you to kind of, keep working the relationship side of that relationship, not just the work side of that client, then absolutely you can definitely do that. But, what I always tell folks is that if you want to get referrals and you're not getting any right now, you really have to consider, right, what are people thinking about you? Nobody refers choppy work or crappy work. Right. And so the idea there is, what does your client experience ultimately look like? And doing things like that is great because it sort of makes you different. And so that's important as well. And it doesn't always have to be a book, right? Sometimes you just click with someone and that will be a great client experience as well, but you won't always in the same way. So I like to teach folks that you got to separate out thinking about what you're going to do for your clients to take care of them that would eventually lead to referrals, and then looking at what you're going to do for your referral experience, which only happens for your referral sources, and what are you going to do for them to keep getting referrals from them. So you do have to separate the client experience out from the referral experience as well.
Love it.
You are one of the smartest people we've had on the show in a long time, Matt. I told you to book people like this in the past. You need to start paying attention, buddy.
Oh, gee, thanks. All right, Stacey, how do people find out about your program?
So it's just Growth by Referrals. The name of the program is the name of the link, growthbyreferrals.com. My home base is Stacey Brown Randall. Stacey has an E that gets everybody. I do have all the domain spellings, but Stacey Brown Randall, either way, it'll get you to where you need to be. But really, what I tell folks is that if you're just figuring out that you want to look at referrals a little bit differently, the best place to start is either my book, Generating Business Referrals Without Asking, or, because we have Jean with us, this is going to be really funny, but also taking the Referral Ninja quiz, which actually, when you take the quiz, it'll allow you to land at one of 3 ninja levels. The goal is to land at the master level, but about 85% of the thousands who take the quiz land at a totally different level, kind of back at the beginning. So that's a great place to start, just to see how good are you at getting referrals now without asking, and then do you want to close the gap and figure out how to get to the master level. And that's just referralquiz.com. But you, of course, can find all of that on my home base website, Stacey Brown Randall.
That's awesome. So the evil bald ninja, he's at the senior grandmaster level.
No.
That's where he's lost all his hair. I mean, from having to deal with life, work, and stress, and being the ninja that he is. I mean, is that where we all should aspire to be going? I mean, I think so. But I mean, I just want to check.
I mean, look at this. How would you aspire to something else? Look at this right here.
I mean, you are a handsome
listen to me.
man.
Did you not prep her about the copyright infringement on Ninja, and now I have to take a percentage of all the referral ninjas?
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Yeah. That's hilarious. All right. Well, so StaceyBrownRandall.com, Growth by Referrals. Awesome. Wait, was that right? Growth by Referrals?
You got it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank God. I want to make sure I didn't screw that up. Okay.
Growth has an E in it.
Right?
Growth has an E.
Thank you, Gene. You just confused everyone.
Only if you're spelling it the way Greg would spell it, as the junior.
Yes.
Gene Volpe with 3 E's. How do people reach out and connect with you?
G-envelope, as people like to say when they look at my logo. G-envelope. I'm not taking any calls this week, so don't worry about it.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. You're all full up. Greg, how do people connect, and what should they talk to you about?
Talk to me about life, color, what your favorite color is, all the good,
I want
important
to talk to
things
you
in
about
the
that
world.
shirt. I'd like to talk to you about
Hey.
that shirt.
Fucking fighting words, homie. Gonna come at me. Guys, I'm wearing a San Diego Chargers shirt, which they are the San Diego Movers.
You don't even know what sport that is, let alone
Dude,
wearing
I've
a
watched
shirt.
volleyball my entire life, okay?
Yeah,
I know what they are.
That was a very
Gosh,
appropriate
dang it.
comeback to that. Uh-huh.
It's my favorite sport.
It's like, what? I'm going to a match tomorrow. How dare you?
For all of you guys who don't get that joke, I'm like the most sports retarded human being on earth. And Matt and Gene rip on me all the time for that. But Matt, if they want to get a hold of me, guys, go ahead and give me a call, 925-915-1978. It is attached to this little guy. It is called a cell phone. It does ring. Or just follow me on Instagram, Greg McDaniel, REU for Real Estate Uncensored. And, of course, Facebook, follow me there, hit me DMs, and I would be happy to have a conversation with you. At least one of these three co-hosts would I like to have a conversation with you. Matt doesn't want to, but I would love to. His little heart, we call a piece of coal, has gotten smaller, and we're working on him. We are praying for him. The good Lord is working in mysterious ways, but baby Jesus has not come down from the heavens yet to save his life.
Right.
But it's okay. It is okay.
All right.
All right, Greg. So people should contact you because you never gave the reason why. People should contact you if they're curious about what's going on at EXP, if they want to build passive income through their real estate career, and open up a new stream of ability to build wealth, while essentially not changing anything that you do day to day in real estate. And by the way, if you are working in a real estate company right now where you're paying for an office building you can't even set foot in right now, why are you still doing that? So yeah, talk to Greg about that. That's not me. Talk to Greg about that.
Well, yeah, talk to me about it. But in all honesty, guys, and yes, I love joking. I'm in a weird mood today, but shut up, Matt.
Wrap it up.
You give me the red light blinking back there, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But seriously, I'm working with a company called Clever Leads, and what they're doing for me and my business is absolutely revolutionary. And it's literally clicking buttons, and leads are falling in my lap. So, Matt, I need you to understand where they can get your book and what color we need to put on the bow, because you've been drawing this conclusion out for this show for too long, and I'm tired of you always dragging these shows out.
Yeah, exactly. That's me. All right, so go to microfamousbook.com, get the book. It is free plus shipping, so if you cover the book, I will cover the shipping. You know the drill on that. And make sure to check out Microfamous Podcast. And then on the color, in honor of Stacey's podcast, let's go with a lovely shade of green for the bow that we shall wrap around this episode. Let's tie it up. Let's wrap it up.
Good. Stacey, one more time, what is the name of your podcast so everybody can go to it and listen to your show?
Roadmap to Grow Your Business.
Roadmap to Grow Your Business. A great show, guys. One of my favorites. I've listened to it for a long period of time. So you guys, you know what? Here's a green bow. We love you to... Matt, would you let me get my finish in? Gosh.
Yes.
I love you guys to pieces. Stay stock. Love having you on the show. We got to do it. I haven't seen you since college. Been too long. We'll do it again soon. But until next time, peace out, ninjas. We gone.